Hello and welcome to the Everyone Has a Story podcast. I thought I'd change some things today, and I'm going to tell a fly fishing story. I know probably every other podcast has a fly fishing story attached, but I've got a good one today. It's got all that drama and intrigue, just like a good fly fishing story should have. So I'm over in eastern Washington, right on the foothills of the Cascades, and I go to one of my favorite rivers where the Yakima River meets the Salmon-La-Sac River. And I'm finding my spots. I've been there before, so I know really what spots I really like to fish, and I know where I'm going to catch them. It's getting that evening hatch so I can start to see the big fish come up and gobble the bug on top of the water. So I'm getting excited. And as I'm getting there, I see that the water is a little bit higher than normal. So it's running a little bit faster than normal. And so my normal place of crossing probably isn't the safest or the smartest thing to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because if I have to walk all the way around, I'm going to lose probably a half hour of really good fly fishing. So I set myself to where I'm going to go straight across. I know my path. And sure enough, I get about a third of the way over and the water's flowing pretty good. And I'm having to fight to keep my balance. I hit a rock that might be a little bit too slippery. So I feel like I'm surfing on these rocks. I'm thinking I'm going to go down. Now I'm halfway down. I'm halfway across the river. And it's getting tougher. I'm getting tired. It's getting tougher. And I'm thinking, oh my God, but I can see those fish over there coming to the surface. So I know I'm going to catch a fish. So I keep pushing on. I get about 3/4 the way over. All of a sudden I find my one leg up in the air because I'm trying to hold my balance. And now I look like I'm walking that proverbial tightrope. And my wife and buddy is looking at me like, oh my God, he's going down. We better get the life preserve route because he's going down. Well, somehow I got across. My heart's beating fast, but I don't care. I go right over to the place that I want. And sure enough, my first cast, the fish comes up, and it was probably one of the best trout I caught all day. So I knew the whole thing was really worth it. But now let's get back to the podcast and what we're here about, talking about business. Now, a lot of times when we're in business, we fight. We fight to stay consistent. We fight to stay disciplined. Just like my podcast, I always have a fly fishing story. You got to be consistent. You got to be disciplined. But when it comes to business, sometimes that can take a toll on you. What that toll means, it can come in a lot of different shapes and sizes and emotions and whatever. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because sometimes we just have to, like I did on my fly fishing journey, we have to free ourselves up to really enjoy more of what we're doing, as opposed to making it just be that battle every day, because no one should have to go in and battle crossing that Salmon-La-Sac River and get tired. And before you know it, it's not going to be any fun anymore. Yeah, there might be fish on the other side, but it's still got to be fun for you. And so with me today is absolutely one of my favorite people I love talking business strategies with. As you all know, I love talking fly fishing. I love talking Denver Bronco football, but I absolutely love talking to Rene Russo about business strategies. We can get caught up in a conversation that supposed to last 15 minutes, on an hour and a half later, we're realizing that we're still talking business strategies. So Renee, welcome back. I can't thank you enough for joining me again on my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure to be back.
Yep. So Renee is a certified EOS implementer. And we're going to talk about EOS here in a minute, but she's really, what that means is that she's a business operations expert and a business strategy expert. So Renee, without me saying anymore, why don't you do a little bit better introduction of yourself?
Thanks, Roger. Yeah, I sometimes question what to call myself. And the most recent simplified definition that I found myself saying is coming from a conversation I had with my daughter. She got very curious about what exactly I do. And I was saying that I take companies that are unwell on the inside and I make them healthier, kind of like a doctor. And so the latest definition that we've applied to my profession is I'm a business doctor. Essentially, all businesses have an operating system within it, but the degree of health of that directly correlates to not only the current level of success, but the future levels of success of that business. I first got passionate about business as I began my university pathway. I got a Bachelor of Commerce and was very curious around all the complexities of business. And as I started my career in the accounting profession, I discovered there was a lot more to the business than the balance sheet. Got me curious. And then I went into the people path. But marrying an entrepreneur and joining our family business was the first time I really got a taste of how hard this was, how complicated it was. And there was a lot of pressure externally, but what I noticed internally that was building up, that was getting in our way. And in an act of desperation, I went out to the world to find out how you can run a better business, and discovered a methodology that I then used in that business, and then turned into a profession for myself to help other entrepreneurial businesses get healthier on the inside so they can get what they want. And the entrepreneur can get what they want from their life as well, because they didn't choose this path because it was going to be easy. So the merging of the personal and the professional and helping transform the lives of all those people connected to a business is what gets me out of bed every day. And loosely held, I'm a business doctor.
Yeah. Well, why don't you scrub up and let's get into this operation here, because we have some things to talk about. So for the people in the audience that might not know exactly what EOS is, why don't you tell us what EOS is and what you do around that?
Mm-hmm. EOS is an entrepreneurial operating system. So all businesses have an operating system, the way they organize and execute inside the business, whether they know it or not. And most are unhealthy, most are not structured, and certainly not in alignment from the top to the bottom of the organization. We all want our entire team to row in the same direction and work towards the same goals, but without a standard operating system, or for lack of better words, a playbook in the business, we frankly don't get what we want. So EOS is a practical, proven playbook that we implement a handful of tools and disciplines from the top of the organization throughout the entire business to instill basic level human discipline that then allows us to maximize the potential of all that human energy in the business, to point it in the same direction and achieve consistent, well-managed results over time. Essentially, it puts the entrepreneur back in control of their business. It helps them maximize the valuation and makes working together a lot more enjoyable, because when we're doing well and we're winning as a team, we keep coming back for more. So it's a win-win for everybody involved.
I love it. Now, I'm a business consultant myself, and sometimes I see where I go in to work with a project and it's as difficult as herding cats. Sometimes it's as difficult as teaching a 6-year-old how to play a sport. And then sometimes it's actually more mature than that, and it's actually quite fun. Right now with pandemic, a lot of new businesses starting, a lot of new businesses failing, and a lot of them in between. What are you seeing out there when it comes to the actual operating procedures of most businesses today?
There was so many things that I was capturing that as you were speaking. So the human level basics inside of businesses are foundational principles of good discipline, good execution. And just like teaching a 6-year-old life skills, it's difficult. They push back, they reject it. And we as parents and we as leaders of organization become often doubtful of, are we doing the right thing? Is this the right course? But human experience tells me that consistency, discipline, and not letting the pushback stop us, but maybe help us better understand what to do next, gives us the motivation to keep going back, even though it's hard. The change in the world of business and the change in the world of being a human over the last couple of years has unearthed a lot of the fundamental flaws and challenges that, particularly in business, we've always experienced, but it kind of took the veil off. And most businesses pre-pandemic had a lack of discipline, focus, good execution, visibility, consistency, and overall a fairly weak framework in the business that may have been masked by economic abundance. The pandemic applied a bit of pressure, then took the veil off those challenges that were always there, and forced a lot of entrepreneurs and leaders into action and addressing those underlying issues and coming into the challenges that continue ahead of us. They look different, feel different, but they're essentially putting the same constraints on business. We are needing to continue to do that work. Process is critical in terms of allowing us to get clear on what we want, how we want it done. And then when we engage talent to the team, we set the clear expectations around how we get the results in that position or in that function of the business. So a lot of the discipline that I am talking about does tie to people and process and data, and they are all linked. Humans execute the processes. The data tells us if the process is working. And where those processes, people, and data need to point us is toward that shared vision. So all that is no different now than it ever was. It's just become glaringly obvious to the majority of people. And now the real work around human discipline, competencies, and systemizing our businesses has never been more prominent, which makes me happy because it's telling me that businesses are de-risking and they're becoming anti-fragile. They're taking back control. And that pleases me to see that happening, across all geographies, all sectors. It's time.
That's a good insight. So we've talked about a lot of the chaos and what sometimes looks like people are just running amok. So give us your definition of what your version of freeing up means in this scenario.
I could talk about it from multiple levels. I could talk about the front line, the employee, the doer level of the organization. When we start the work to really systemize the business, what that does is get really clear with them around the expectations, how to achieve great outcomes, and measure their level of success. The clarity around the expectations is key, and it frees them up to just do what they do best. It gives them peace of mind and confidence and clarity around their contribution. They feel that they're in the right organization, in the right seat, and doing the right work. So they are free to just be themselves and do their best work. So that level of freedom for them, I feel, is what will keep people engaged in working with various organizations and in certain roles, because they're free to do what they do best and they know that they're making progress. From a management and leadership standpoint, systemizing the business and creating the discipline framework, a key thing starts to happen there is that we put them in control of their teams and allow them to structure their teams appropriately, measure success and performance at a larger scale, so they can move from being in the weeds and in the day-to-day and micromanaging people to an elevated space where they're able to create more direction for their teams and truly lead them. The management piece is also allowing them to communicate effectively, troubleshoot, and develop their teams from an elevated space. So they're able to delegate and elevate more successfully and freeing them up to do the work that they do best. And for the entrepreneur, what starts to happen is the business becomes more and more self-managed. And so they become non-essential to the day-to-day. That then starts to free up many areas of their life: freedom of time, freedom of money, because the business is doing well, freedom of relationships outside of the work, and freedom of purpose. They get to move into that space of creating and fulfilling their purpose. Their whole reason for being starts to become at the forefront, whereas before it was, for many entrepreneurs, in the rearview mirror from when they started the business. So they then become free to do what they do best as an entrepreneur, which is a win-win for not just the business and the people connected to it, families included, but for the economy, because they're able to then seed other opportunities and be more involved in creating, other ventures, because they're not tied to the day-to-day. Freedom is a key word that I think you've unlocked there, and it speaks to all levels of the business.
So walk us down that path. We're talking from disorganization. I hate to keep saying chaos, but things are not organized, they're not systemized. And so you've talked about what's going to happen, the benefits if you make these changes. Now, really walk us through that process so the people listening can say, wow, that's not as hard as I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm. So I could give you a personal example. I'm a visionary, and I built my business messy. I had an outlook of what I wanted to achieve, and I kept that front of mind, and I did whatever it took. I worked with clients that weren't a fit for me. I made up the work on the fly in terms of processes, so there was inconsistency. I worked outside of my geography. My brand was fragmented. But I have one goal, is to make this business become alive and to keep it alive. And what I found myself, where I found myself was in a position where I got stuck. I couldn't take the business any further than that because it was messy. I was a one-man show, one-person show, and I was very much stuck. Then I discovered the power of who. I understood that in order to get to the next level, I needed the right who's to help me do the things that I don't do well. Creating consistent, disciplined follow through of processes at a detailed level, not my zone of genius. So I hired someone to clean up the business, to standardize everything, and to ensure that we consistently follow through on our processes for clients. The marketing piece, it was all over the place. Not my area of expertise. I hired the right who to do that. And though I started my accounting, my career in accounting, I actually have no attention to detail for numbers at all. And so I hired an external bookkeeping company to take care of that function on my business. I hired all the who's to do all the things that I suck at way better than me, so I could be freed up to use my unique abilities, which is selling, coaching, and facilitating. And the result of that was that I got to do the things I love to do and I'm great at every single day. And the business is now being able to scale and grow because I have the right who's in place, doing the parts that I struggle with way better than I ever could. So letting go of the vine, empowering the right who's, and staying in that zone of my unique abilities has unlocked all of the potential that I, as a one-person show, could never, ever even imagine achieving on my own.
And it's safe to say that most owners of a business, they might not be the visionary. Obviously, they started the business, but they might not be that typical visionary. But the fact of the matter is, if they're good at what their trade is of that business, they need to be doing that. They need to be spending their time there, not looking at receipts and making sure that they're entered properly in QuickBooks or anything like that. When it comes to the marketing, yeah, there's other people out there. And so many times I see and I hear from owners that they are just so full. Their plate's always full. And when I ask them what's on their plate, it's typically those two things along with HR. You know, they don't know bookkeeping. So before they hire someone to do bookkeeping, they're trying to learn it on their own, which is probably taking them an hour to do a 15-minute job, right? When it comes to marketing, geez, there are so many different options out there. And to learn how to do it and then how to make all those posts, if you're doing social media or doing whatever, it just takes up a lot of time. And now before you know it, you don't have any time to do what you like to do best and what's bringing in the money. So now how do you pay for all of those things because you're too busy doing all this? And then HR just takes up time. No matter how you shake it, it's just a time sucker. So if you've got those three things as your responsibilities of whatever your role is at the company, those right there could be three full-time jobs. Or at the very least, all three of them tied together is a full-time job. So when do you have time to do what you need to do to build your business? Like just what you just said, and that's brilliant. You're able to do what you like to do and where the money comes from for your business, and let the other people that are very good at it do that. But like you said, though, you know what you need to watch, though. And so it's not like you're turning a blind eye to the financial statements. You're not turning a blind eye to the marketing to make sure that it's the way it's supposed to do and it's giving you the results that you want. But watching those numbers, watching those key indicators takes up a whole lot less time than actually trying to do it yourself.
Absolutely. We start each day with, first of all, energy is renewable. Yes, but we don't have an infinite amount of time and energy every day. We have a finite amount of that. And what I've learned around energy management is becoming very conscious around where that energy goes in a day. And when I say yes to one thing, I'm saying no to many others. And I just need to make sure each day that I'm saying yes to more of the things that are in line with my unique ability and move the business towards the results that we need to continue to grow and have exponential impact in the world. So it really, for me, has become a deep understanding around my finite amount of human energy, a decision-making process around where it goes, and understanding my unique ability. I know that the things that I love to do and I'm great at, I get amazing results. And it actually is very little input of energy for me. It doesn't even feel like effort. So if I spend more portion of my time doing those things, the results go through the roof. And I want that for every member of my team. And so part of the operating system that I use and the work that I do is ensuring that we have the right structure of accountability. We truly have the right people in the right seats. And that structure is in alignment with where we're going as an organization. Because if there's disconnect there, we spend a lot of time and energy and there's a lot of frustration and we never get what we want.
Okay, so we've now talked about how freeing up is going to help the entrepreneur, the visionary. But now let's get to the team, right? Because typically, unless it's a solopreneur operation, the bottom line is that you're going to have probably one or two, maybe multiple managers, and they're going to all be responsible for a team of employees. So now let's talk about what you do as an EOS implementer, putting the systems into place. How is that going to help the manager, and how is that going to help the frontline team members?
Getting clear where we're going in terms of the vision of the organization and how we're going to get there creates this powerful roadmap. And even with my clients, I only see them once every 90 days. And sometimes they get a little bit lost and they'll call me up and I'm like, what does the map say? Go back to the map. They keep looking out and around for solutions. I'm like, just go back to the map. The map will tell you, is this the right way or to go or not? And so having that shared vision and understanding around how we are going to organize and execute to get there reduces the dysfunction, the chaos and the confusion, because we all know. Rather than one manager going this direction, another one going that way, it brings us to the table. We buy into that vision. And so for a lot of managers working for a founding entrepreneur who's still in the business, it's like utopia. Understanding the vision that was inside the visionary's head, we've extracted it, we've molded it, we've bought into it, and we know where we're going. So for a manager or leader of an organization, that's huge. Having the tools then to execute on that vision is the next step. And from, as you know about me, I'm obsessed with execution. I grew up in a household with a lot of discipline. I played high-level sports from 5 years old, very intensive. So discipline and execution is my obsession. And so I feel like humans are very good conceptually buying into where we're going, very poor executors. And when we standardize that simple set of practical tools and associated disciplines from the top throughout the organization, we then start to see the results of that, because everywhere you look, we have crystal clear accountability, transparency on the performance, down to the day-to-day activities, and we can see everybody working hard to execute on the vision. So from a management standpoint also, it allows us to elevate out of all the details every day and just really become more of a maestro, managing the team and guiding them towards the results that we want. The accountability structure that we use, we call an accountability chart, it helps us ensure we have the right people in the right seats. And everything that outside of that, that's not in line with that, having the right people in the right seats, we just call issues and we solve them. So it puts them back in control of their teams. Process is really important. I mentioned this before, because it allows you to get clear on what's got to get done, so that those people doing it understand how to get the results. So you don't have to be driving the work every day. And the data on the weekly scorecard tells us whether those leading indicators, activity-based behaviors, are on track to get the results we want. Is the process working? Is the people doing the right things? It creates this transparency. And then the key part that brings it all together is that weekly meeting pulse, where we're actually looking at the scorecard, extracting issues and tackling them, and using that meeting time to really calibrate, align, keep the circles connected, and everybody at the team level rowing the same direction. From a team member standpoint, most people start their profession not really understanding how to be a value-added employee. They don't really understand that. They've worked hard to get there, and they're assuming that the employer is going to take care of bridging the gap. And what this does is teach the employee how to be a value-added employee, fulfill the expectations of the seat, live the core values, execute your process, hit your number every week, and attend and engage in that weekly meeting. That's the basics of being a really value-added employee. And because these tools and disciplines are in place across all levels of the business, everywhere they look, from the top to the peer level, everybody's executing on those same disciplines. So the buy-in is greater, because it's not a case of do as I say, not as I do, but rather a situation we're all playing by the same rules. So it's a win-win for both the employee and the managers.
So let's go one step further. COVID is hopefully ended for good for a while, with the closures and shutdowns of businesses, commerce and travel, and you name it. But coming out of that, we see that a lot of individuals are not returning back to their old employment. The picture that you just painted so very nicely, is that going to help reduce this great resignation that we're going through right now, and be able to call up when you want to go to your favorite restaurant and they won't tell you, no, we're closed. We have to close early tonight because we don't have the staff to provide you service. Are we going to eliminate those experiences if these business owners get themselves aligned, get the whole staff aligned on the same purpose, good communication, people just feeling like they have input, they know what the scorecard is, so they know if they're winning or losing the game before the boss even knows if they're winning or losing? Is this going to help?
Mm-hmm. I don't think any one thing is going to solve these big problems. I feel I won't go down the path very much, but when we see something showing up, kind of like a sore on your skin, it's usually a symptom of deeper systemic underlying issues that have been building up for a very long time. I don't think there's a quick fix here. But as an entrepreneur who faces the same challenges that my clients do, I have seen the level of engagement, commitment, and retention increase in my business through maintaining these foundational practices that psychologically tell my team members we're in control, we are focusing on the right things, we're always looking ahead, we're planning now, acting now with the future in mind. It creates a space of safety. It allows then me to and my team to systemize all the predictable elements of the work so we can humanize the exceptional. We can create space for people to really bring their best self to their work. We can have a high level of impact on our clients because we're uncomplicating all of the traditional elements of the business so they can show up and truly enjoy the work. I feel that not only is it an engagement opportunity and for potential employees to come because they can see that you've got your house in order and they understand where they plug in, and it reduces the complexity of being an employee in an organization. I think that helps. I think that deep level of connection across all levels of the business with the purpose, why we're here, the level of clarity around core values alignment, that I'm in the right place, and having a clear long-range goal 10 years out from now of what we're striving for, and we understand how we have to get there, gives team members a higher level of commitment to the purpose of the organization as opposed to their manager, because we know through our work that it's really purposes that lead organizations more than people. And then also, I feel that it creates a model of transparency that allows us to open up the scope of what traditional work hours look like. It allows us to apply more flexibility around the employment experience for our devoted team members, because we can see what the needs are and we can move away from traditional 9-to-5 jobs and say, what do we need from people? When do we need it from them? And how do we need it? And does that correlate to a 9-to-5 structure, old world, or something that we might want to contemplate is more relevant and contextual now? In the very service-based sectors, hospitality and retail, which I have clients in both, the focus on data has never been higher. Understanding the numbers of the business, the needs of the business, and acting on that data is important. We need to make sure we are looking forward based on the past data, and if certain levels of ability to open and operate are reduced, we don't want to keep committing to the market that we're open traditional hours and then fall short. We can more successfully manage those expectations, reduce our hours, change our shift structure in line with the data. So it allows us to make more objective decisions rather than gut feel and emotions, or saying, you know what, like from the Who Moved My Cheese, I'm just going to stick with this, plow through it, and you're in your fly fishing story, and hope that it's just going to get me the results that I want. It allows us to sit back and work on the business more successfully because we have that visibility. So I don't think any one thing is going to solve the Great Resignation, but these practices certainly will help everybody.
Well, Renee, Time goes by too fast when we're on a podcast together. I could sit here and listen to you all afternoon. I can't thank you enough for being my guest today. Your insight is always just spot on and just to the point, which I appreciate. Why don't you leave us with one more little encouraging inspiration to help us wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, I'm going to be like Renee, and I'm going to get up every day and I'm going to feel good about going to my job.
Okay. There's a lot of things that come to mind. But I'm thinking about your fly fishing.
So am I.
A lot. And the message that's coming to mind is a case of, you're talking about doing the same thing and plowing through it and trusting it's going to get you what you want. I would say the message that I find myself sharing far and wide is that what got you here won't necessarily get you there. And we in business are forward-looking all the time. We don't often do a good job looking back at, what worked and didn't work in the past, what we want to continue to do based on the past, and what we might need to change in terms of where we now want to go in the future. We sometimes just expect that if I just keep working harder, or we keep working harder, or we put more money into it, or we wait this out, everything will be okay and we'll get there. And I would say I have never seen a situation where that's paid off. So the message that's coming to mind, and I didn't know that this was going to be what I would want to share until now, because that's the way I roll, and you know that about me. I never know what's going to come out until it comes out, is that what got you here won't get you there. Stop, look back, calibrate, get clear on where you want to go, and step back from the business to work on it, to truly ensure that you are setting it up for success, to truly get you and your team to that next level where you ultimately want to go. And I would say that in that, some level of change will be necessary. And the level of change that you then implement needs to be based on this question. Is the fear of staying the same greater than the fear of change? Because change is hard and it is scary, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. So what got you here won't get you there. Is the fear of change greater than the fear of staying the same or less? Ask yourself that question and the answer will be there.
Thank you. This has been great. How can the audience reach out to you if they want to hear more and talk to you about your services?
Thanks for asking. I am available online in social media as well as through my website. And that's a starting place. I'm finding myself now being a resource and pointing people towards other resources, human and or materials. So www.riseupbc.com is a great starting place. And then I can help point you in the right direction. But if you have $25, I would get yourself a copy of Traction on Amazon. If you've got a little bit more to invest in taking your business to the next level, you might want to download some resources and start spending some time with your team. But if you've got a little bit more than that, I would consider looking at the opportunity to work with an EOS implementer, at least a conversation with one, because we are now almost 500 strong. I'm training 15 next week in Denver. We're in almost every geographical market, and we're here to help.
Well, they should. If they're having any type of issue with their operating systems, they should reach out. Thank you again, Renee. It's always a pleasure having you on my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here.
My podcast wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for my sponsors and my great supporters. So let me take this opportunity to thank each and every one of them. First of all, I want to thank Rebecca at Custom Bookkeeping and Accounting, delivering trustworthy bookkeeping services since 2003. Dave and Dara at Virtues Matter, making this world a much happier place to be with their Virtues card apps, coaching and workshops. Stephen at Buller Accounting, giving business owners depth and insight to their numbers. Eric and his team at Ivy Cat Web Design, the real superheroes of web development and design. Jennifer and Jean at the Seavers Real Estate Team, serving Pierce and Kitsap counties with their home buying and selling needs. Maury at the Maury Method, the world's only brainwave entrainment engineer, helping everyone have more clarity, less stress, and overall better brain health. Priya at Pivot My Profit, helping individuals and businesses have better control of their finances and more money at the end of their day. Melissa at the Soul Vibe Energy High, the queen of the aha moments, helping individuals find those holes in their cups, repair the hole, and gain back their positive energy. And finally, Rick at West Sound Recording. You talk, they do all the rest. Thank you, Rick, for all your efforts with the production and editing of my podcast.